Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we naturally continue our conversations around the summer transfer window with a little bit to catch up on in regards to NICOLAS KUHN. Now his situation has been very well documented over this past week, but today we have a couple of updates, including another side who have apparently entered negotiations with Celtic surrounding his availability this summer. So all of that, a couple of other wee transfer related things. And if you're into your finances, then it's a good day to be a Celtic fan, because we have a big update which is named Celtic as one of the most sustainable clubs in world football. So bear with me, we're going to talk about all of that today. It's nice to be back. Let's do this. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. We are now on course to 60,000 subscribers. I guess that's the next landmark. So go down below, hit both those buttons. It's absolutely free. I'm back for the remainder of the summer now that my holiday is out the way. And shall we start today with the news surrounding Celtic's financial situation? Because a big report that came out over the last 24 hours has named Celtic as one of the most sustainable clubs in football, which, if that's your cup of tea, and I'm sure it's everybody's cup of tea, is great news to hear. So this morning there was an interesting article published by Off the Pitch, who are recognised by European football clubs as the leading source for football industry insights, offering unparalleled data analytics and must-read newsletters. One of their newsletters this morning published their end-of-season data surrounding Europe's most financially sustainable football clubs, and Celtic have managed to find themselves in the top 10 of that list. Only 2 clubs from the UK were included, Celtic being one of them, which is obviously great news when you consider, look, listen, we Celtic, way up in Glasgow, Scotland, we don't have the Premier League riches, we don't have European glory year upon year. Celtic shouldn't really be in this situation, yet after years of great well-run business moves, we find ourselves being recognised as one of the best. So let's have a wee look at that list very quickly. So every year Off the Pitch released this top 10 list of Europe's most financially sustainable, and Celtic came in at 8th place. As I said, only one of 2 British sides included in the list. 8th place behind Napoli, Silkeborg, Molde, Manchester City, Clermont Foot, Bayern Munich and Fiorentina, which means you consider all the big clubs left off this list around Europe, down in England, the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, over in Spain, the likes of Real Madrid, Germany, Borussia Dortmund, and all those big clubs in Italy. Celtic being ahead of all of them by being number 8 in the list is a magnificent achievement. Now, it would be dumb of me and naive of me to sit here and pretend that football at the minute is in a bit of a financial state that is very well recognised. You only have to look at the likes of Manchester United to see the billions of dollars worth of debt they're in to realise, yeah, Celtic are probably in this list because they're nowhere near that level of debt, and probably never will be that level of debt. But still, to be included in the top 10 is a remarkable achievement, and as much as I hate doing it, it's a tip of the hat to the guys running the club, because even though we have our complaints about the money that we might, or the lack of money we might spend in a transfer window, even though we have our complaints about the pricing of tickets, generally as a club we're run very, very well. Not without its flaws, and still a lot of things that I would love to see fixed and brought up at the AGM, but ran very well when you look all over this continent. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm some sort of financial expert or some analyst or accountant that knows the ins and outs of the Celtic finances, but I will try my best to explain the quota for this list very, very quickly. So if I bring it back up on screen, you will see that Off the Pitch uses 3 main margins to determine how sustainable a club is. Now, it is ranked over the last 3 years, with most emphasis being on the last 12 months. That's to help reward consistency rather than a one-off performance. For talking sake, if a club, say Napoli, had a standout year or a standout 12 months, it does bring in the last 3 years to help reward that consistency. It starts with the first margin, which is EBITDA, which is essentially how profitable clubs are on a day-to-day basis. Celtic have 15.3% in that. I have no idea what that would relate to in terms of money we make, but we're at 15.3% on how profitable we are on a day-to-day basis. ROA pre-tax is the return on assets, how much clubs make relative to what they own, and Celtic clock in at 9.3%. And then finally, the equity margin, which is how much of their operation is funded by debt. So 47.4% there. For example, if Manchester United were on this list, it would probably be about 950%, but Celtic at 47.4, a final score of 19.9, which is around 6 points behind Napoli at or 7 points behind Napoli at 26.2 at the number 1 spot. Yeah, a lot of financial jargon, a lot of stuff that even is beyond my pay grade. Listen, I studied journalism, not finances. Nonetheless, Celtic being on the list is very, very good for business. If you need a quick reminder of Celtic's financial reports from last year, the financial year that ended June 30th, 2024, there was a lot of good reading in there. The key financial items included an increase in group revenue, included a year-end cash total of £77.2 million, and that all came after a decrease in profit before taxation. So even though there was a decrease in profit at the club, we still powered through to have a very impressive calendar year. And of course, this year's calendar year is about to come to an end. That will end at the 30th of June 2025, and around September time we will see our results for this financial year that we're in. We've already had an interim report, but we'll have the full-on report over the next few months. And Celtic, I'm sure, Peter Lawwell and all the rest of it will be absolutely dying to talk about how sustainable we are. But it just shows how good of a place Celtic are, how good of a place we're going to continue going. And hey, all that talk about big money being in Glasgow and where all the money lies, it's still firmly with Celtic right now. Now let's leave the boring stuff behind us and get on to Celtic transfer talk, shall we? Because we have a few things to catch up on before I wrap things up today. And we'll start with NICOLAS KUHN. He has been the man of the minute with numerous reports over the past 24 to 48 hours. Yesterday we spoke about that story linking him with RB Leipzig, and apparently talks underway with the German side. Well, we have had bit of mixed reporting about that ever since. So last night there was a report that came out from Germany which suggested that RB Leipzig are still pursuing and intensifying their interest, and they want to bring NICOLAS KUHN to the club. That was from Philipp Heinz of Sky Germany. Later on in the evening, though, Anthony Joseph reported that NICOLAS KUHN is one of a number of targets for RB Leipzig, but as things stand, there has been nothing concrete. That could well change as the window progresses. Now, the interesting thing about Anthony Joseph's report here about nothing concrete happening is that, well, yesterday we sat down to talk about the fact that there was apparently bids already submitted and talks underway. But with nothing concrete in the mix, then that leaves that up for debate. However, I would be inclined to believe what Anthony Joseph has reported is correct, because I said this yesterday and I'll repeat it again. The fee that was suggested of £15 million just seems far less than what the club should be accepting, and I don't think the club would have accepted £15 million. So for all of these rumours and stories that have came out over the past week that talks are underway and it was a £15 million fee, I don't think there'll be any progression on any front unless that number goes up, unless it's closer to the £20 million price tag. Celtic aren't going to want to let him go for much less than that. So nothing concrete as of yet. Price tag still to be sorted out. And that was another thing that was picked up in another German publication yesterday, because it seems like Celtic are indeed looking for more money. A German publication, Der Westen, reports that Celtic are wanting closer to the €20 million mark. So that would be, roughly 17, 18 million pounds. Now, Celtic apparently demanding at least 17.5 million euros, but from Leipzig, they're hoping for more than 20 million euros, which would make, of course, make Nicolas Kuhn one of the most expensive outgoings in the club's history, and a pretty big signing for Leipzig standards as well. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of moving about with the transfer fee, and that's going to be what makes this a difficult one for Leipzig to get done and over the line. And as I've been recording this in the last half an hour, it seems like Celtic might have a bidding war on their hands, because another club have entered the frame. Because in the last half hour, while I've been recording this video, Gianluca Di Marzio, one of the top journalists in Italy, part of Sky Italy's team, has reported that Como are in negotiations with Celtic for Nicolas Kuhn as well, and that the situation is now a bit more complicated. Como have apparently begun negotiations with Celtic for the winger, and that is one that is suddenly underway. So it's looking increasingly likely that Nicolas Kuhn could leave Celtic. I'm now sort of braced for that to happen. But I think what's most important about this story breaking in particular is that this will create a form of bidding war. It is now going to be down to the highest bidder, and Celtic accepting the best offer they can get. I don't know where Nicolas Kuhn would prefer to go. Lovely Lake Como, coached under Cesc Fabregas with a kind of uprising Italian side, or back home in Germany with one of the biggest clubs there. I don't know where he would prefer, but whoever offers Celtic the most money, hey, they're going to try and drive it up. Now that Leipzig have competition, that's only good news for Celtic from a financial point of view. I would rather keep him. I don't want to see him go, but if this drives the price up over that 20 million mark, there's not much you can do. But yes, apparently they are looking at strengthening the side. Nicolas Kuhn negotiations underway, according to Gianluca Di Marzio. So things are progressing quite rapidly. As I said, you've got to brace yourself for some sort of exit at this point. It is gutting, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see Nicolas Kuhn leave the club, but it all makes sense when you see the amount of wingers we've been linked with, the fact that Benjamin Nygren is signing for the club. He is naturally a right winger. We might just be preparing for that departure of Nicolas Kuhn. Yeah, patience. That's all I can say. That's all we can add into this situation right now, and we'll see what happens. But hopefully Celtic get the best price possible should Nicolas Kuhn decide to leave the club. And final update is in regards to Benjamin Nygren. I know a lot of people online are getting impatient. Where's the announcement? Announce Nygren. Some people scared it might fall through. Well, that won't happen. And in fact, Scott Burns of the Daily Record has given us some insight as to why it might be taking so long. He said in the Record today that I believe there's a work permit hearing today. I'm not sure if Nygren is up or not. His work visa would be a formality because he's a full international and was playing in Denmark. Celtic players are back tomorrow. I would be surprised if there was confirmation over the next 24 to 48 hours. So don't expect Benjamin Nygren to be announced as a Celtic player over the next couple of days. If Scott Burns is correct, we need to wait for the clearing of that work permit, and then he should be here. As he said, it'll be a formality with him being an international at Sweden. There's not much to worry about there. But just be patient, it'll come. And as I said, keep an eye out on that 1st of July date. I think that we might see it then. But he will be a Celtic player, don't worry. Right, that does it for today then. If you have enjoyed, you know what to do. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Thank you all for your support, as always. And God bless. Take care of yourself. I'll see you all next time.